News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Hour number 3 of the program on the Chris Crux Show on News Talk 820 WBAP. Now on FM at 93.3. All right. I want to get to a little bit more on the, what are you going through? How has this affected your life at home regarding your Bidenflation, Bidenomics? By the way, I can't wait to talk to Sarah, who is with an insurance agency, I believe, which is going to be incredible. This is going to be incredible from her. I really mean it. Different perspectives are fantastic. By the way, buy now, pay later. I see this on my credit card statements. Like when you have charges that are like, I don't know, a couple $100 or more. It's like, do you want to buy now, pay later? I'm like, whoa. I mean, they are coming at you in every way to make money off you. It's insane. And I don't use that stuff. I never have. And right now, the buy now, pay later schemes, 43% of those who use buy now, pay later are behind on debt. Almost half of everybody that uses buy now, pay later are behind on debt. Debt is slavery. Debt is slavery. I'm telling you, free yourself. We sold a very nice minivan. We bought it and lumped in. This is something we did years ago before we came here, about 16 years ago, or so. And we lumped in a $5,000 loan we still had left, and with a trade-in on our car, and we bought a nice minivan, and we sold it. I lost my job. It was right when that 2008 downturn happened. The market, I literally lost my job when that happened. But so I was out of work for 8 months, the longest ever. And previously it was like 4 or 6 months or something, max me 4 months. I don't know what. So that was hard. But I had beautiful kids. I had a wife. And we did it. And it was an incredible test. But we got rid of the minivan. We got rid of a 400 and some odd monthly payment. And that freed us. And we had one car. And we made it, and we made it work for a long time. When we came here, we had one car, and I bought a beater, and we saved up, and then we have 2 cars now, and they're not like that at all, and we're blessed. So it's discipline and hard work, okay? And right now I'm going through 12 months. It's a pain in the butt, and I've realized something. My wife really does not want to do this with me. She can't stand it, but she'll help me when I have questions, like, what's this? What's this? Do you know what this is for? I'm going through every single thing we've paid for on our checking, credit, debit, all that stuff, and I'm gonna label it all. I'm already almost 3 months done, but I'm gonna go for a year, and then I'm gonna see where we're at, because I think we're losing money overall, and I want to see where and how and what we can do to cut, and then go from there, because we need to do some major adjustments. Everybody's going through this. The idea of corporate greed is a joke. I'll tell you about that in a minute. CNN rebukes Joe Biden for that. The Fed chair today, Powell, just said today inflation is falling more slowly than they expected, likely keeping interest rates elevated for an extended period. These inflation readings today are higher than I think anybody expected. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you. Tuesday brought a fresh round of discouraging inflation data, CNBC said, when the producer price index also rose. Okay, let's go to Sarah in Addison, who has a great perspective on insurance. I'm asking you, too, how has this inflation and everything, cause of inflation and everything, how has it affected your life at home? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Hey, Sarah, in the great city of Addison. Hey. I wanted to move there. I was at temporary housing there 14 plus years ago when I moved here, but I found out there's not many homes in Addison.
You know what? It's become a really, really crazy thing. Living in the same area for 14 years, so seeing so many different levels of presidencies and how it affected the same area you're living in.
Really?
I want to say, Addison is now turned into a Section 8, and I hate to say that because there are folks that genuinely need assistance. But as far as getting sleep in my apartment at night, it has become a free-for-all for parties, for drugs, for drinking. It feels like anyone's wanting to accept a buck. They're not doing background checks anymore.
Oh, man.
And it's an affluent area,
It is. It's a very nice area, yeah.
For me, doing life insurance and annuities, investments, it was one of the only industries that, during COVID didn't really fail.
Wow.
People were more now than ever looking for the future. And it's hard to plan. When you tell someone who's barely scraping and saving 50 cents a day, put back $300 a month. What is $3,600 a year going to get you? Nothing.
Wow.
Especially in this economy, and wondering why money on the books 7 years is better than 10 years because of, pardon my French, the guy upstairs who's not doing his job.
Right.
Inverted yield curve is solely his fault.
Tell us what inverted yield term is. Tell lay people like me.
So basically, the longer you keep money on books in an annuities or an investment portfolio, the better your performance is supposed to be, right? We use a 10-year look back to average out the future when we do our illustration projections. That being said, due to the horrible market the past couple of years, when those 10-year look backs and those averages came out, it was horrendous. I mean, in this case, you're lucky because zero is your hero with the company that I'm at. But people want to put their money somewhere that's doing better than the bank. And when you can't say that you're doing better than 15 cents a year, it stands for something.
So what was it like? Since you said you've had experience of 14 presidencies, I think you said, or 14 years of presidents?
14 years in the same spot.
Right.
So, you're seeing an average of four presidents.
Yeah, I was like, no, you don't sound like you've been alive for 14 presidencies. No. Okay, so...
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Me neither. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Did you have an insurance perspective as well, whether it be auto, home, or life too? Because our auto has risen for everybody. The average is 22%, 22.5% in 1 year, which is, that's beyond outrageous. That's angering, seriously angering.
PNC has gone up substantially. If you're looking at a $500 dollar a month payment for your home insurance, it's now gone up to about $1,200.
What?
Literally for some folks. And that's the full package coverage, and that's for communities like Starwood, for Stonebridge up in Frisco. And it's horrendous.
So wait, say it again. For a homeowner's policy, it used to be $500 a month in nice neighborhoods, and now it's $1,200 a month, you're saying?
Collin County and the more affluent communities. And this is directly from the mouth of babes, from people that own their own insurance agency.
Oh, my Lord.
Right.
How about...
And it's how do you survive? It's going to be,
rich and poor.
Call me Snake, It's going to be wars in New York.
Yeah, so this is going to be rich and poor, isn't it?
It is, and that's what they want. They want to divide us. They want us to be dependent on the government.
Yes. And they're taking our money to pay for people who hate America and hate us and hate the cops and hate our Constitution to give them free tuition and stuff. Now, let me ask... Yeah.
Go for it.
Sarah, let me ask you something else. You have given us perspective of yield inversion rates, I think it was you said, and other rates or other insurance. What about with Trump? How was it under Trump? What was the outlook and what was the temperature like with Trump in the same situation we're talking about?
It was fantastic. I can go buy eggs without checking my bank account. I've made the most money I've ever made in my life. It has been the most successful yet most challenging time. When you want to break the next tax bracket, it should be a celebration, not, you're saying, goodness, they're taking 40% of my check and everything is more expensive, triple, quadruple the times. Used to be inflation or averages around 5%. What happened to that?
Wow.
What happened to my savings? Sure.
You said what happened to my savings too, you said?
No, actually, what happened to my savings? What happened to the average inflation rate? But honestly, the border situation, if you plan a party for 400 and 4,000 show up, it's not a racist issue. How do you plan for your people?
No.
How do we budget adequately? And people wonder where our money's going from,
You're a fantastic caller, and I love your everything you're delivering here. I want to ask you one more thing, and that is... why do you, and you sound like a very, very sharp, very successful and smart person, why aren't you in a home? Just curious, was it something with the economy? Was it something are you single, or it doesn't, I'm not trying to dig in.
It breaks my heart. We can't afford it. When your daily living has gone up and you're trying to keep yourself healthy, buying fresh fruits and vegetables, you can't afford a home. You have to depend on renting because you're afraid that if you buy a house, how much will it cost to fix your roof? How much will it cost, Right?
Everything's
you want
more.
to give me $100 for having a battery-operated lawnmower? No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That's a disgrace. Okay, so have you been here in DFW all your life for a long time, or what?
I'm a Cali transplant. Moved when I was 14 here in 2000.
A California transplant?
I'm grandfathered in.
No. Okay, because that's what I was hearing. So wait a minute. When would you have pulled the trigger? Are you married? I'm just curious, getting the idea of an average person.
Of course, we've been together for 18 years. We have a 12-year-old son.
Congratulations.
We're very blessed.
Wonderful.
And that's the sad part. Our son goes to St. Mark's.
Good.
And we want to live up to that dynamic, but we didn't donate a library. And we have to remind that every day that knowledge really is power.
It is.
But
so
California still puts some stuff.
Could you have do you think you could have afforded a house under Trump? Or do you think it's just DFW? Or is it kind of both Biden, inflation from Biden and just the DFW market?
No, I had hope. I had hope that I could afford a car, a two-car garage, a brand new car, and still be able to take your summer vacations, still be able to put money away, still have that fun to where if your car breaks down, your kid gets sick, you have that extra in the bank to take them there. It is a scary situation.
It is now. It is for all of us. Okay, and then how likely is Trump to win, in your opinion, based on your pulse on things?
100%. And even from the people that don't want to admit it, they're going to go in that poll and not tell anybody they voted for him. And that's fine with me.
I pray to God they either do that or they just don't vote. Appreciate your call.
Absolutely.
You're a firecracker. You're a great call. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Yeah, she's great. All right, coming up next in the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Who is funding these anti-Israel, pro-terrorist, violent Hamas quoting and supporting protests on campus? You are going to want to hear this. It's one of our adversaries. That's next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. It's the Chinese Communist Party. They are the ones who are funding these, one of the ones who are funding the pro-Palestinian, they're not pro-Palestinian, they're pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas, anti-Jew, anti-Israel. They want to slaughter all the Jews, kill them. Here's why China's doing this. One reason only. This is, and you're going to hear a quote from a PSYOP expert who does PSYOPs and who did them. And he says this is a PSYOP, and it's a PSYOP from China. And the funding is coming from China, just so you understand that as well, too. So this is not speculation. This is not a theory. This is a fact, according to a brand new report released by the Network Contagion Research Insititute, as reported by Fox News today. Chinese Communist Party linked network is behind the well-funded anti-Israel campus protests. And guess who one of the groups are? There's about 3 or 4 groups they're funding. Guess who one of them is? Students for Justice in Palestine. It's the National Students for Justice in Palestine, NSJP. And guess what? The protests at UT, the leader of the chapter leader who gets like $8,000 a year from what's his name, George Soros organization. She is a Jew-hating, Israel-hating Students for Justice in Palestine head from UT. She left UT and she now goes to SMU Law School. I don't know if she's still on their payroll and still a member. I can pretty much guarantee she's a member. I don't know for sure though, so I shouldn't say that. But I only learned this from the New York Post, not from our local media. They don't know jack. They won't tell you jack. They don't want you to know jack. But this lady who is a grad student who was a UT student. She was in charge of Students for Justice in Palestine for the chapter there, and then on the payroll, according to the New York Post. Then she moved up here because she got accepted to and is now going to SMU Law School. And she showed up and she appeared to be leading the UTD protests against Israel, sitting in and squatting and trespassing in a UTD building. She doesn't go to UTD, according to the report. She goes to SMU Law. And yet she's leading people to hate Jews and hate Zionists and attack our brothers and sisters in Israel. As you know, UTD is a cesspool of Jew hatred. We had two of their students on with me, and I'm proud of them. One is a young woman who's a proud Jew. She's a grad student over there. She's the best. I have her, and I have a young man who's a freshman there. He's a Jewish student who wasn't even talking about being Jewish or acting Jewish, and he was vilely attacked verbally and stuff because they know he's Jewish. They know where the Jews are. They know who the Jews are. They know where the Jews are. They're texting them. They're following them at UTD. I've talked to these people on the air and off the air. Confirmed by me directly from the people. Cops had to get involved. Do you hear me? Jew-hating, radical Islamists supporting, terrorists supporting, Chinese Communist Party funded organizations at UTD, at UT, and more. Now, Fox News reporting this today from the Network Contagion Research Insititute, their report. It was published last week, and it talks about the activities of, quote, seemingly grassroots activist movements like Shut It Down for Palestine formed after October 7th attacks. So as if it was spontaneous. It was not, they report. They're anti-capitalist, anti-police, anti-government protest functions as a hybrid online and real-world network for mobilizing frequent demonstrations, as well as gradually escalating direct action infrastructure and spaces, targeting critical infrastructure and public spaces. And I'll give you more on this, the highlights only from the story coming up next. Congress is launching a probe into the funders of this too. And the usual suspects that I've been telling you about for years on this show are on there. Students for Justice in Palestine, CARE, Council on Islamic Relations, they're investigating them all. Congress is now. So many more, guys. But I'm going to go back to the story about the Chinese Communist Party funding these groups to support terrorism, to hate the cops, hate our country, hate our Constitution, to hate us, to rip this country apart. China wants to rip this country apart, and they're doing it successfully through TikTok, which de-amplifies pro-Israel and radically amplifies pro-terrorism on their outlet. So much more. I got to pause. When we come back, I'll tell you more about the story I've been into here on this brand new report. Also, how Congress is launching a probe into groups funding the pro-Hamas unrest on campus, and much more next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Okay, the Chinese Communist Party has been funding a bunch of these anti-Israel, Jew-hating, pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas rallies and violent attacks and violent takeovers at college campuses across the country. This, according to a brand new report that came out today from Fox News. They are citing the Network Contagion Research Insititute and their investigation, their report. I'm asking you a couple questions. Does this surprise you that China is funding a lot of these radical Islamist pro-Hamas terrorist protests and anti-Israeli protests on our campuses? Can you believe? Hey, listen, think of this. All these stupid, ignorant, pathetic leftists, can you believe that they're rallying for the Chinese? Can you believe they're rallying for the Chinese Communist Party that enslaves, rapes, and murders Muslims? Do you think they understand this? You're being paid for by people who would put you in chains, jail you, or kill you. You're a useful idiot, and you're an ultimate tool for the Chinese Communist Party. You are such a fool. You poor little twit. Let me read these questions for you to respond. Does this surprise you that the Chi-Coms are funding this? If you were our enemy, would you be funding these anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli protests on our campuses if you are our enemy? Would you also be funding them in our classrooms, centers on campus, like those Confucius centers? And, would you also be doing TikTok like they're doing? The Chinese communists? And the Wall Street Journal did a study on it. I think they said it was, I could be wrong on this, but I think it was like 30-1 for every pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine video on TikTok. There was like one pro-Israeli. It was like 30-1, something like that. Or maybe it was 13-1, but it was like incredibly pro-terrorist. Does it surprise you that China is funding these protests on campuses? If you were our enemy, would you be funding these protests on our campuses, these anti-Israel protests? And would you also be funding, if you are our enemy, like China is, the Chinese Communist Party, would you also be funding the BLM riots, trans and LGBTQ militant activisms in our schools and in our media? You bet. Rip this country apart. Get it to hate cops, hate the Constitution, convince people that they're victims and this is a racist, systemically racist society, support DEI, and tear down this country. Make people hate it. Make them attack and revile us so that this country is torn apart, so that China will advance. Anything to hurt us, and it works. And China is reportedly taking their cues from Russia. Our number, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Does this surprise you? If you're our enemy, would you be funding these anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli protests on our campus? And would you also be funding stuff like the BLM movement, the riots, the trans and LGBTQ militant activisms in our schools and media? 800-288-WBAP. Okay, so the Network Contagion Research Insititute, Fox News says, reported these seemingly grassroots activist movements came together after October 7th. They seem like they're spontaneous. They are not. They function as hybrid online real-world network for mobilizing frequent demonstrations and gradually escalating direct action on infrastructure and public spaces. Another person involved in this is a couple who lives in Shanghai. They're American-born, but they live in Shanghai. The wife funds Code Pink, the vagina hats, and the guy funds the Jew-hating protest. And this group, the National Contagion Research Institute, describes him as a conduit for the Chinese Communist Party influence, geopolitical influence. So he lives in Shanghai, and China is reportedly funneling him tons of money to funnel this into to Jew-hating protests across America. And getting these stupid leftist idiot females to wear vagina hats and scream at Trump. Remember those idiots with the vagina hats? Remember that? You don't know what I'm talking about, Producer Garrett? Did you Google it? So you see what I'm talking about? Those pink hats where it looks like a labia or something on top of their head? Or whatever. I'm not trying to get all technical on you here, but yeah, those are vagina hats. That's all they are. That looks like it may be paid for by the Chinese Communist Party. Doesn't surprise me. 7 core organizations are the conveners that make up this whole thing. It's the first one I mentioned called Shut It Down for Palestine. I can't pronounce this. Al-Adwa. Al-Adwa. It's probably an Islamic saying. Al-Adwa. Hold on. Al-Awd. Sorry. A-W-D-A. Awda. Al-Awda. It's also the National Students for Justice in Palestine, Palestinian Youth Movement, Palestinian American Community Center, New Jersey, People's Forum, Answer Coalition, and International People's Assembly. The CCP-affiliated entities have effectively co-opted pro-Palestinian activism in the U.S. to advance their broader anti-American thing. They're inciting unrest, and they plan on inciting unrest throughout this whole summer and into the November elections. The founder, and a huge website I've mentioned all the time, and I follow them on Twitter, I retweet them a bunch, Stop Anti-Semitism. Their founder and executive director says that these groups and their demonstrations are a Trojan horse to surreptitiously advance a destructive authoritarian ideology seeking to sow chaos in the U.S. and Europe under the guise of social justice and anti-colonialism. Remember, for radical Islamists, Israel is only the little Satan. The United States is the great Satan. These protests are part of a pre-planned, well-funded, non-organic campaign to undermine America and Western civilization. the founder of and director of Stop Anti-Semitism, his family fled the Soviet Union. He says the tactics being used by the Chinese-linked authoritarian network reminds him of the Marxist strategies his family experienced in the former Soviet Union. It is. It's communists influencing us. And absolute twit idiot, weak-minded fools, whether they're Ivy League students or not, doing the bidding and the loud rallying and crying and cries for Chinese communists. Research fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, he studies these PSYOP campaigns. He says this is using covert and coercive methods to influence the U.S. Beijing has taken note of Russia's information warfare accomplishments, and China has adapted the playbook. Okay, Congress has launched a probe now into these groups funding the pro-Hamas unrest on campus. Here they are. Here's who they are, as promised. Congress is now investigating Students for Justice in Palestine. What have I told you about that? American Muslims for Palestine, Jewish Voice for Peace, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Tides Foundation, Open Society Foundations, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Council on American Islamic Relations, Adala Justice Project, and Sami Down, whatever that is. I'm sure it's an Islamic word. I don't know what that means. They've all been identified as either funders or supporters of nationwide protest movement. And Students for Justice in Palestine and American Muslims for Palestine, in particular, have emerged as the top organizers of these anti-Israel protests, and they're being sued by Israeli terror victims. Good. Who allege the group serve as collaborators and propaganda for Hamas. They are. Students for Justice in Palestine praised Hamas. They praised the Houthis, and they retweeted a caption where they were holding up banners in Yemen that said, "Death to Israel, death to America." That's Students for Justice in Palestine. They are yelling Allah Akbar as they want to blow things up and kill people, especially the Jews. All right? That's who they are. They're Hamas. Okay? Know who these people are. All right. Now, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, we have a horrible story I want to share with you, and I'm sorry, but it's also gripping. I've got audio you have to hear. A firefighter in a small town of Wisconsin. It's not a small town, but it's a small city. Appleton, Oshkosh is where a lot of people go, including here from North Texas, for the annual. They have a flight museum thing there. Or they have tons of, I think my friend Jim Dutton, who hosts Texas Home Improvement here on WBAP, and I always use his outfit for my plumbing and foundation work. They're the best. But Jim, I believe, always goes every year to that, and for the flight thing they have every year. Anyways, this small city, for the first time in 88 years, lost a firefighter. Why? Because he saved the life of a man who almost died from a fentanyl overdose. He brought him back, only to be killed by that man. You can hear how this went down and how it's a study in why cops do what they do, and when they don't, what bad things can happen. That's next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. You know, it's been a while since I've taken a moment to talk to our police officers who are on duty right now. There's someone I love dearly who's on duty tonight and many nights out of the year. So I feel like I'm talking to that person when I'm talking to you, and it doesn't matter. You matter. And, half the time there's nothing going on. Actually, 3/4 of the time, what a lot of people don't realize about your job that you know is that a lot of it's boring. And then the exciting stuff happens, and it happens in a flash. And the challenge is being ready on those moments where it happens in a flash, when 95 to 98% of the time everything's normal and calm. But there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. That's a lie. I rebuke anybody who even calls it that. There's no such thing. And there's no such thing as a routine call either for police. This call was a fentanyl overdose call. The firefighter and cops respond, and Appleton, Wisconsin, a small-sized city, I would say. Probably got 100,000 people in it. Appleton, Oshkosh is a metropolitan area. Probably got 200,000 people in it max, is my guess. Maybe 250, maybe 3, but that's it. Firefighter Mitch Lundgaard became the first firefighter killed in 88 years. He arrives on the bus. You're going to hear this now in a second, back to back to back. It's cut up for us. But he arrives on the bus, this 14-year veteran of the Appleton Fire Department, and he revives a man with Narcan. He's very calm and sweet. The cop and him get him off the bus and talk to him as he's still kind of out of it, but he's fine. And they explain things gently, and they say, hey, we just got to do a quick pat down to make sure they're okay. The cop does before whatever. He's like, you're not in any trouble. There's a bulge on the gun. There's a bulge on the gun. There's a bulge on the side of his shirt. Everything's fine. He says, I'm a little uncomfortable with police. I don't like them touching me. Everything's a red flag, and it ends in death. And the cop ends up, I'll just play the audio for you. The cop ends up killing him. He ends up killing the firefighter. And people are screaming, and it's terrible. But here it is. This could be any day for any cop and any firefighter.
The police are here now.
Hey, buddy.
He isn't responsive.
Okay. Unresponsive, and you're agonally breathing, which means like laborious, like pre-death breathing. They gave you a little bit of Narcan, which treats opioid overdose. I'm not saying that you did anything intentionally or illegal. What I'm going to do, bud, I'm going to pat you down, okay? You're not in any trouble, but I need to make sure nothing's going to happen with them, okay? All right?
Wait, I can't, I have to check myself first.
All right, check yourself, yourself?
Yeah.
All right.
Houston, real quick, do you have any weapons on you?
No, sir.
Okay. Kind of a bulge on your right side.
That's my phone.
Okay, don't reach for anything. Just guys,
That's my phone. Look, man, I have a problem with officers touching me, man.
Lift up your shirt then.
Sure.
I get nervous and stuff.
You lift your shirt up a little so I
You
can
want to
see
make
your
everybody safe.
Look, this is my...
Not move. Stay right there. Leave the pressure on him. We'll get you. Just stay there, okay, buddy? Get the ambulance up for the female.
36-year-old Mitchell Lundgaard is the first firefighter to be killed in the line of duty in Appleton in 86 years.
From the website firefighterNation.com, the story reads, May 2019, Reuben Houston shot and killed this firefighter. May 2019, he was trying to help him. Lundgaard and other firefighters were treating Houston outside of an Appleton transit center when he suddenly opened fire on responders. Houston was later killed by police. Now the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reports that Houston would have been locked up at the time of the shooting if not for a mistake. He had changed his name, and court records didn't reflect his real identity as they should have, so his criminal past was not considered when he was let out on a $500 bail for another charge. While he was out on bail, he shot and killed Lundgaard, the firefighter. He was a 14-year veteran. Now, the story comes out today, so I don't understand the date variance on that, but I think they were saying that he was let out in 2019 for a crime. I don't know how it all rolls, but I know this. A firefighter is dead, and a cop shot and killed this man. You never know. You never know. And did you hear that guy? He was going, because he was dying from fentanyl overdose. Just sick.